By the numbers, Eagles vs. Buccaneers wild card round. Here's a look at some of the facts and figures to keep an eye on ahead of tonight's wild card showdown between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Eagles, including playoffs, have the third-best primetime winning percentage since 2017, 23-12.657. Philadelphia is 9-6 in primetime road games in that span. Since 2021, the Eagles are 18-9 on the road. Head coach Nick Sirianni is the first coach in franchise history to reach the playoffs in each of his first 3 seasons. His 34-17 record is the best winning percentage, .667, of any coach in Eagles history. The Eagles set a franchise record with a 48% third down conversion rate, good for third in the NFL. The Eagles produced the 7th most points in the league, averaging 25.5 points per game. Their 8 performances of 28 or more points tied for third in the NFL. DeAndre Swift will play in his first playoff game tonight. The first-year Eagles set career highs in both rushing, 1,049, and scrimmage, 1,263 yards. His 731 rushing yards in the second half or overtime of games ranked first in the NFL this season. Back in Week 3, Swift rushed for 130 yards against Tampa Bay, averaging 8.1 yards per carry. No single rusher gained more yards on the ground against the Bucs this season. Jalen Hurts became the first quarterback in NFL history to post consecutive seasons with 20-plus passing touchdowns and 10-plus rushing scores. His 4,463 total yards and 38 total touchdowns both set franchise records. The NFC wild card round marks the Eagles' 5th Monday game of the 2023 season, most such games in NFL history. Philadelphia defeated Tampa Bay on Monday Night Football in Week 3. Jalen Carter tied Derek Burgess in 2001 for the second most sacks, 6.0, by an Eagles rookie, trailing only Corey Simon in 2009.5. Jake Elliott set a single-season franchise record with his 93.8%, 30 of 32 field goal percentage, breaking his previous mark of 90.9% that he produced during the 2021 campaign. Tampa Bay is 2-3 all-time at home in the wild card round. The Eagles operated out of the shotgun 85.3% of the time, the highest percentage in the NFL. The Buccaneers blitzed defenses at a 41.8% clip, the third highest in the league and well above the 29.1% league average. Behind the blitz, the Buccaneers rely on 4 defensive backs, base personnel, 34% of the time, second most in the league. Jalen Hurts versus the blitz will be a storyline to watch. Tampa Bay blitzed on 61% of dropbacks in Week 3, the highest percentage by the Bucs all season. Hurts threw 2 interceptions and had a 40.5 passer rating against the blitz in Week 3. This season, Hurts had a completion percentage of 67.8, a TD/INT ratio of 17-7, and a passer rating of 97 when teams did not blitz. When they did, Hurts completed 61.1% of his attempts, posted a 6-8 TD/INT ratio, and his passer rating dipped to 74.7. The Buccaneers had a season-low 174 yards of total offense in the Week 3 matchup against the Eagles. The 14-point loss tied for their worst result of the year. Philadelphia's 472 yards of total offense was the second most allowed by the Bucs all year. The 1750 difference in time of possession was the worst result by Tampa Bay. Similar roads for quarterbacks Jalen Hurts and Baker Mayfield. Both quarterbacks transferred in college to Oklahoma after starting their college careers elsewhere. Hurts at Alabama, Mayfield at Texas Tech. Mayfield won the 2017 Heisman Trophy at Oklahoma, while Hurts finished second 2 years later. The brotherly shove? The Buccaneers were one of the few teams to stop it on a 3rd and goal from the Bucs' 1-yard line in the Week 3 matchup. The Eagles did run it again on 4th down and scored. With A.J. Brown out with a knee injury, Julio Jones passed with and against Tampa Bay will be fascinating to see tonight. He had 7 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown in last season's playoff loss to the Cowboys as a member of the Bucs. In his career, Jones has 114 receptions, 1,841 receiving yards, and 11 touchdowns versus Tampa Bay, all of those stats the most against any opponent he faced. This will mark his first postseason matchup against Tampa Bay. For some insight into the Buccaneers, Fran Duffy chatted with SB Nation's John Legerd, who has covered Tampa Bay in depth for several years. The conversation is part of Fran's latest Eagle Eye in the Sky episode, which can be found below. What are your thoughts on Baker Mayfield at this stage? I think he's been above expectation because if you think about realistically, there was a time last year after the Panthers stint where it was like, is Baker Mayfield going to have a career in the NFL? He went to the Rams and he was decent, and there was always some interest, but he signed for very little money from Tampa Bay for the season, so there was not a lot of interest in him. He didn't have a lot of offers, so he came in, competed for the starting quarterback job, got the job. But there was definitely a sense that this could be one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league, and he's been a top-half quarterback in the league, I think, this year. So definitely a pleasant surprise. All the things that you struggle with him are still there. One thing that's come up this season, he's not been a great deep ball thrower. When he has, this is a pretty aggressive offense, so he'll push the ball down the field. Baker, this season, is 22 of 74 on 20-plus air yard throws down the field. You're talking about an adjusted completion percentage of 31%. That is one of the lower marks in the league, even when you account for drops and things like that amongst quarterbacks at his position that have played as much as he has. So when he's had games where he's hit the deep ball, there's not an arm strength problem, it's really just an accuracy, timing issue. When he's had games that he's done that, this offense has put up their best performances in the season. The Texans game, the Packers game, like all of those games, like they've been really good. But this offense is really predicated on that happening. And that's been the struggle this season is when he doesn't do that, then they have to live manageable situations. What gives Bucs offensive coordinator Dave Canales the most confidence going into this matchup? It's a good question because the Bucs haven't really been consistent at all this season. It's hard to pinpoint exactly if there's anything this team is great at. They've been pretty good at throwing the football this season, especially late downs. They don't throw it enough on early downs is probably the biggest gripe I have, but the passing game and the concepts and the way they've built things out, without getting too much in the details, but they have great route development off of their play-action game, which is huge. Their pass concepts in general have been pretty aggressive. They found ways to get the ball down the field without running 989 every time. It's just more variety. They've learned, we can spread the field with Baker Mayfield. We can put 4 eligibles out in the route tree, and we can make things happen that way in the pass game. We can get our running back involved. Rackett White, when the teams met back in Week 3, most of the routes were just flat, check downs, things like that. Now, he's an active part of the pass game. Mike Evans is running the lowest percentage of go routes in his career. Still running them, but just running lots of different stuff and using him vertically. Chris Godwin is more on the outside, still playing in the slot a good bit, but more on the outside. And when he is in the slot, asking him to get vertical from the slot, so the pass concepts are good. The route concepts in general tend to be layered pretty well. There's just a lot of good spacing in this offense. I would say they know how to attack areas of a defense. Same question, but with head coach Todd Bowles and the Bucs defense going into this game? This is a really hard one because your biggest strength is probably a couple individual players, so it's not even sort of like something you're doing conceptually. Antoine Winfield being arguably the best safety in the league this year, Pro Bowl voting disaster. You have defensive tackle Vita Vea, who's playing at a very high level this season as well. Levante David continues to dial back the clock. I think he's had a better year this year than his previous 2 seasons. He's been outstanding. So, you have a couple of pillars at each level of your defense. The rest of the players around them pretty good this season. The corners have struggled, not at a similar situation from Philly's corners. We're typically pretty good corners, and Carlton Davis and Jamal Dean haven't really stayed fully healthy this season and then have kind of had lots of ups and downs when they've been out there. And so that part of it concerns me a little bit. And then I think it's more the matchup, like the Bucs have not been a high-pressure team this season. They've sent a lot of pressure. They haven't gotten a lot of pressure. It's not been as successful as other years of the Bulls regime. He still continues to blitz at a very high rate. The encouraging thing is that he hasn't gotten pressure. He didn't get pressure in Week 3 necessarily on Jalen Hurts when he played him, but just the idea of blitzing, and he blitzed 75% of Hurts' drawbacks. He's going to be aggressive,